Hello and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, the moment that we've been waiting for has finally come. The vaccines are there and now they're open to the public also. Well, we've seen the long queues, we've seen the hospitals, we've seen people. In fact, what we saw earlier, the vaccine hesitancy is definitely gone. It's replaced by a vaccine enthusiasm. Now, the problem is when is everybody going to get their vaccinations? And also, there are a couple of questions that are coming up. In fact, that's what today's show is about, to answer all your queries and hesitancies, if there are any, about the vaccination process. Which one should you take? How long should you wait between the gap between the two doses? Should you take the vaccines available now, or should you wait for something that is coming up, say the nasal drops, because that's what I've told a lot of people are waiting for? Should you get your antibodies checked before the vaccination? And if you are okay, then should you again go for the vaccines? These are some of the questions that have been asked around, and I've got a panel of experts here to answer all these questions. Joining me on the roundtable is Dr. Romel Tikku. He is the Director, Internal Medicine at Max Hospital. We have Dr. Neeraj Jain. He's Chairman, Chest Medical at Sir Gangaram Hospital, and Dr. Harsh Mahajan, founder and chief radiologist at Mahajan Imaging. Dr. Tikku, we've been through this many times, but I think today is a roundtable that we've been waiting for. The vaccination is finally here. There is still a lot of hesitation and confusion about Covaxin versus Covishield. You know, people are not sure which one to take, which one will handle all the mutations. So, is there any huge difference between the two?
Well, I don't think so, not really. I think we should not get into the numbers game. 60, 70, 80, 90, anything above 50 is supposed to be good enough. And we need more and more vaccines, actually. That's what we need as of now. In the coming few months, there will be more vaccines which will be approved. And we have to actually inoculate a huge number. Look at 27 crore is the number that we have to inoculate in the next few months. It's a humongous task, let me tell you. So our focus should not be right now whether Covishield or Covaxin. Our focus should be how do we inoculate these people? And we have the experience of doing it. We've done it in the past. And let me tell you, both are good. Both have safety, efficacy, which is almost comparable. Now the third phase trial data of Covaxin is out, which says it's more than 80%. In fact, it's the fourth vaccine after Pfizer, Moderna, and Sputnik, which has more than 80% efficacy. But even Covishield, for that matter, the Oxford vaccine has 70% odd average efficacy. So it really doesn't matter. And in some time, we might have Novavax, we might have Johnson & Johnson. But yes, there is a lot of over-enthusiasm, I would say. Initially, there was too much of reluctance, skepticism that whether we should go for it. There are side effects. I've read this, I've read that. And now it's like, I want to be the first one. It's like the Apple phone. The day it's out, everyone wants to go and buy it this first day. But that is creating a little bit of chaos because there are certain people who only want to do it in bigger hospitals. They have some sort of security that if things go wrong, will be taken care of. There's nothing like that. You can go to smaller centers also. In fact, there are so many centers which are doing efficient work. And you don't get into this center business that whether this is good, that is good. Whichever is closest to your house, whichever is comfortable for you, whichever vaccine they're giving, just take it. They're all good. They're all efficacious. Right now, our focus should be approving more vaccines, creating more private centers where we can give these vaccines, increasing the manufacturing of vaccines. And in some time, I think we should have an open vaccine market where you just go to any medical facility and take your vaccine, pay for it, take your vaccine, that's it. Right now, yes, there is a little bit of confusion because you're supposed to have a certificate if you're 45 plus with comorbidities. Now, a lot of people think that if you have diabetes or if you have hypertension, then that's a comorbidity and they can get. In fact, loads of patients call me today that I have hypertension, I need a certificate from you. So they don't even know about it. So there has to be some more awareness about the comorbidity list. There are 20 odd illnesses. And it's not only diabetes, hypertension, diabetes more than 10 years with end organ damage and hypertension, coronary artery disease with diabetes, hypertension, stroke. So there are so many. And one has to really sit with his healthcare provider and decide. And regarding the which ones to take, I think both are good. Yes, the fact sheet of Covaxin does say that if you have allergies, if you have blood disorders, if you're immunocompromised, then you don't take it. I think, but still, you should go and talk to your doctor, decide. Anyway, if you have fever, if you have any active infection, if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, then you're not supposed to take either of the vaccines. But the fact sheet of Covishield says that you discuss, if you have any of these disorders, you discuss with your healthcare provider. It's not a big deal. I think whoever is eligible for vaccination should have a word with his or her doctor and decide. But as far as efficacy, safety is concerned, all these vaccines which have been approved are good enough. We should not worry about the safety or efficacy. Whichever one you're getting, just go for it.
Okay. Dr. Neeraj, your first thoughts on the two vaccines. And also, I've seen initially there was a hesitation about Covaxin saying, maybe because it is an Indian vaccine, everybody wanted the AstraZeneca one, the Covishield. But today, after the study, and also there is also talk that the Covaxin can actually handle the mutations better. So maybe that is a better option.
So I know Dr. Tikku's mentioned most of the things, but I think people should just go back and think. We've been through almost a year of coronavirus in the community without vaccines, right? We've done fairly well. Vaccines are one thing which the purpose of the vaccination, again, people are forgetting, is not to have long-term immunity or good protection immediately, is to cut transmission in the community at best right now so that this pandemic can be halted and controlled. The vaccines are equally efficacious, I agree. They're all based on sound technology, and they've been tested enough, and we know from the numbers that people have already received that there haven't been any major incidents. There are two aspects to protection against corona, in my opinion. One is our innate immunity in this country, which we cannot extrapolate from the Western countries. I think India has definitely done better than what most people expected because there is also an innate immunity in our population. And that has helped us. The vaccine is to bolster that immunity and provide specific immunity against the virus. The problem has occurred that people were reluctant now that when they saw that the healthcare workers have taken the vaccine and that it's not caused any problems. Now everybody wants to jump on the bus and say, I want my vaccine first. I think people should be careful. They should allow the ones who need the vaccine most to get it easily. I know there are people clamoring for medical certificates. I'm sure Dr. Tikku is flooded with requests. Just give me a certificate. I want to go and get my shot tomorrow. And I have dissuaded so many people in the last week. I can't tell you, let those people who need the vaccine most get it. There is going to be enough time. I'm sure there's going to be enough vaccines, and the government will open it up for people to walk in. And like Dr. Tikku said, we should have centers where people can walk in and take the vaccine. It's not something that is going to be so technical that you need to go to a big hospital. And I just feel that people should sit back and say, okay, we'll wait for our turn. There is a defined population that should get the vaccine now in the second phase. And it's a question of a week, 10 days, 2 weeks before the vaccine will become easier and more easily accessible to almost all the people. So I personally do not think that people should worry about which vaccine. I think both are equally good right now. And we should be very, dogmatic in our approach. We should say that just go get your vaccine and don't listen to what all is going on. The problem is there's too much information. There's too much misinformation. Everyone has an opinion on the vaccines, their efficacy. The data is coming from somewhere. It's being applied to our country. We should not go by that. We should go by what the government, what the official bodies are saying, and just stick to that. We have 2 vaccines which have been around. I'm sure we'll get a 3rd or 4th vaccine very soon. And, then there'll be enough to go around, I think.
Dr. Mahajan, taking off from there, the Covaxin versus Covishield, there is still some kind of, debate that is going on. Some people are saying because Covaxin has been tried more on the Indian population versus Covishield, that suits us better. What do you say to people like that?
I would say it's a needless debate because, in this country, I think nearly 1.5 crore have had the Covishield in the last month and a half. That's a huge number. Covaxin is still under a trial kind of category that we are giving it. Though with the phase 3 results having come out yesterday, I'm sure that label will change and there would be no need to fill in a consent form and all of that because it was being given in a trial mode. But as Dr. Tikku and Dr. Jain have very clearly enunciated, both are very good. And in the pandemic situation, where 90% of the population of the world does not even have access to a vaccine, to say that I want A or I want B or struggle trying to get that is really not necessary. But I may add at the same time that the government has given you that choice, because there are hospitals and institutions which get Covishield, and there are others which get Covaxin. And previously, in phase 1, the healthcare worker or the frontline worker had no choice where he could go. You went where you were sent. Today, it's an open field. You could go to any government hospital, you could go to any private hospital, and you could choose which vaccine you want, even if that is unnecessary, as very succinctly put by Dr. Tiku. There is really no need. Both are equally efficacious. And most importantly, I think hesitancy has turned to enthusiasm more because, there's a huge chunk of population, 27 crore more who've qualified for the vaccine. And so even if a little fraction of them start hitting the CoWIN website, the traffic is huge. And also there is the mopping up that is happening for the healthcare and, frontline workers, and the second dose for many that is going on. So I would say, please don't get into this. Go to the nearest institution, hospital, nursing home, which has been accredited for giving this vaccine, and take it. There have been hardly any serious side effects, and there has not been a single death in 1.5 crore vaccinations.
So, I'm touching wood as you're speaking.
Yeah, touch wood. But please don't fear it, and don't think because that this is a large hospital, it'll be able to take care if something goes wrong. Even the smaller hospitals that have been accredited, even the nursing homes, would have all the facilities to take care of a hypersensitivity reaction if that were to happen. Luckily for us, as compared to the mRNA vaccines, that's the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, these two vaccines have shown hardly any hypersensitivity reaction. And that's a big, big plus. Also, since these can be stored at normal refrigeration temperature between 2 and 8 degrees centigrade, it is very easy to actually distribute it. And if you seeing the enthusiasm and the rush that has happened, the government also has changed tack. It has very quickly opened up many new facilities, because initially they said in the private sector, first they opened up the private sector where there were chosen hospitals who were either PMJ accredited or had CGHS who were permitted. And then as quickly as yesterday itself, they've added all other facilities which may be able to give the vaccine to actually join. And that is very, very necessary, because the quicker we vaccinate as large a population as is possible, of course, this has to be titrated and it's subject to the availability and the manufacturing capacity of the two manufacturers. And that's where it has to be a measured increase. It can't be a sudden, frantic increase in the vaccination, even if we have the facility to give it across the country. We have to also see how much of the jabs we have. And I think this one WhatsApp that's going around, which says that vaccines may go waste, they may expire and all that, nothing of that sort is going to happen. The government is well aware, the manufacturers are well aware, this is like gold, and we are lucky that we have it in this country. And we should just take the jab when our turn comes. and don't be frantic about it. Your turn will.
Dr. Tikku, there is a lot of speculation about the gap between the two doses. I know it's 28 days. People are saying for Covaxin that works. For Covishield, there is some bit of confusion. I was speaking to Professor Srinath Reddy earlier, and he, of course, quoted various studies from WHO and all, which say that with Covishield works better between 8 to 12 weeks. But since India hasn't adopted that, it's really up to the individual whether they want to do it within 28 days or wait for the longer period. How would you react? What would be your advice?
I think in India, you're supposed to take it at 4 weeks, which is 28 days. And but there is a lot of data which actually says that it might be more efficacious if you take it between 8 and 12 weeks. Actually, the maximum, which is around 80% at 12 weeks. There was this data which was published in Lancet recently. And there have been studies post the actual trial. The initial trial, the original trial, had a gap of 4 weeks only. And that's why initially it was 4 weeks. But later on, they realized that the longer the gap, the more efficacious it is. And there have been more studies. And even now there are studies going on which say that the efficacy increases with time. In fact, after 22 days, you start developing the antibodies and they reach a peak by the end of 3 months. And that's when you need the second booster. But having said that, you do develop antibodies post 3 weeks of the first jab. And you have to look at the logistics also. India is a huge country. Getting people back for the second jab after 3 months might be a huge challenge. And our kind of population, 1.3 billion people, we might actually not be able to inoculate everyone. But if we do inoculate majority of populations, it's going to be a humongous task. I think logistically, it might be difficult. And that's why the gap has been kept at 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, actually. That's what it is in India. And otherwise in UK, I think they're doing it at 12 weeks. But there is one school of thought which says that it's better to get inoculated at 4 weeks so that at least you have some protection, and then you might get a booster in some time. It's going to be like a flu vaccine in times to come. Maybe you'll have 6 months down the line, you need another shot. Or because we don't have enough data right now, post-vaccine, we'll know with more and more experience that we have about these vaccines. Maybe like a flu shot, you need another shot 1 year down the line. So the sooner you do it, the better it is, especially for healthcare workers, because we are exposed, because we are high risk. So I would say go with what the government is doing. 4 to 6 weeks, fine. And there's no need to really worry about the fact that you haven't taken it at 12 weeks. But yes, there have been debates, there have been discussions about this gap, but I don't really give too much importance to it. I think we should go with the 4 weeks, which the government has chosen for us. Other than that, as we've all discussed, the safety efficacy for all these is the same. And in fact, we're lucky that we have the indigenous Covaxin, which has more than 80% efficacy. And with that vaccine, you actually don't have logistical issues. Manufacturing is not an issue. Cost is not an issue. And it's our own company, Bharat Biotech, which has a very good reputation with vaccine development. And that is a huge, huge bonus for us. Imagine a country like ours, India, is right at the top with all the other countries, and our vaccine is right in the first 5. So there should be no issues, no debates. We have to inoculate majority of the population soon. It's going to be difficult. So let's focus on inoculating more and more people. The gap, the efficacy, everything will be taken care of by the experts. Listen to the experts. Don't go by WhatsApp forwards. And don't listen to people. Just go with what the actual data says, what the government has decided, what the ICMR, the health ministry, whatever protocols they've devised are the best for us. And I think we should not read too much. Just go with what the government says.
Doctor, is there anything you want to add to what Dr. Tikku says? And also, can you explain to our viewers why the second shot is important? What role does this so-called booster shot play? And what would you prescribe, generally a general medicine, for the various side effects? Is there any off-the-counter medicine people can take?
So when we talk about developing immunity, we know that every vaccine is different. Some vaccines will induce enough immune response with 1 dose. This particular vaccine requires 2 doses or maybe even 3 doses. We will see with time. So the second dose, as Dr. Tikku said, I think we should take it at the prescribed period. If the data changes, you see, this is being monitored continuously by very competent authorities. If the data changes with time and they say, okay, now we have enough data to say that the second dose can be 8 weeks or 12 weeks, we'll go by that. There is no harm in taking it at 4 to 6 weeks. That is what the studies have done. and there's been no adverse effect. So we should stick to the 4 to 6 week period for now. There is another angle which I just wanted to mention here. You see, people who've recovered from COVID, people who had COVID, there is a huge question in their minds when they should take a vaccine. And this is a huge population. Our experience has been that people who had severe COVID disease, even 2 months, 3 months ago, have still got a very high level of antibodies. Those who had milder disease, their antibodies faded away faster. So there is a time period that's been mentioned that, 6 to 8 weeks after the COVID, from up to 3 months after COVID, this is a call that has to be taken by the individual physicians who are looking after those patients. I have patients whose antibody levels, whatever the antibody levels are worth, people read too much into the antibody levels. It's a very, very crude kind of assessment of immunity. So one should not say, oh, I have a level of 300 or 400, so I'm immune. It doesn't work like that, but they should go to their physician and be guided by that. Coming to the side effects have been minuscule, in my opinion. Like any other vaccine, you have local pain, maybe a febrile episode for the first 24 hours, some fever, body ache. Some people have had a lot of malaise, which has persisted for 2 to 3 days, and tiredness. All this responds very well to normal doses of paracetamol, which you can actually take 4 to 6 hours after the jab. If you think you're prone to these things, you can even take a tablet without the onset of these side effects. If you take a tablet of paracetamol 4 to 6 hours after the jab, you may avoid a lot of discomfort. So, and there is hardly any other side effect. The fear that people have, people who have allergies, everybody comes and asks, oh, I have an allergic tendency, should I take this vaccine? The normal allergies which people have, the common colds, the asthma, is not a contraindication to taking this vaccine. The allergy is to do with, proteins, specific proteins that are injected, or specific medicines or antigens. Those are the people who need to be careful about taking the vaccine. People with normal allergies do not need to worry about taking the vaccine at all, and they do not need any special clearance for the vaccine. So I think we should stick to the current prescribed schedule. The idea is, again, repeating myself, the idea is to vaccinate the right population in as large numbers as is possible, and then gradually increase the net, cover most of the people in the next few months, so that we are ready in case there is a surge, in case there are variants. At least most of us are at least partly protected. If there is a new vaccine that has to be developed, if there are variants, taking the worst case scenario, so be it. That will happen too. But I think there will be a lot of cross immunity. Even if there are variants, people should not worry. I think they will be protected. The variant story is a little premature right now. We should not be discussing that at all.
Dr. Mahajan, any of the new vaccines on the horizon that you are particularly optimistic or excited about? A lot of people I know are actually saying, there is vaccine enthusiasm, and there are those who are saying, let's wait for the nasal drops. Does that make sense to you?
It makes a lot of sense, but when is it going to be? When are the trial results going to come? So please don't wait. Take what you are getting. And if something better comes, we may, as has been pointed out earlier, we may need a third dose, we may need an annual dose, only time will tell. So please don't wait for something better, because what we have is excellent. I mean, it's not as if, we are a poor third world country and we've got something which is not good enough. That's not the case. Both the vaccines are very, very efficacious. And as has been said, they are very, safe. Now, one or two questions that have been doing the rounds. One is that if I've taken Covishield today, can I take another vaccine, say a Covaxin, on day 28 when my turn comes? And right now, the recommendation is no. If you've taken a particular vaccine, then that is the vaccine you need to take as the second shot. There are, of course...
One question to that, Dr. Mahajan. If I've taken the Covishield in India and I'm, say, traveling to Dubai or wherever else it's available, can I take the second dose over there of Covishield or whatever version?
If it's the same vaccine, yes, very much. You can take it. If you are in a different country and it is possible to get the same vaccine, it's the same vaccine, whether manufactured here in India or in England or sent from here. The second question that is being asked is that, what you already mentioned, within the country, today I'm in Delhi and I get a jab, and then I go for work and my day 28, or I'm there for a month in Bangalore. So that also the government has permitted you to get a jab in a different city, in a different hospital, in a different location. You just need to change on the CoWIN app, the site, and you can go and get the jab. But one thing you need to remember, it should be the same vaccine. That is something which at the present point of time is non-negotiable. Of course, there are trials going on with mix and match in the US, where they are trying Pfizer and Covishield, one given first and the other later, and we'll know the results. But right now, it should be the same dose, number 1 and number 2.
On that note, thank you very much, all of you, for coming here. And before I let you go, I want to congratulate Dr. Tikku. Change in designation, I noticed, from associate director to director. So, and we're happy to do that. This is the first show you're doing with that. So it's a hard battle well earned. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking part in this show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.